everyone, happy 2024. It's been a while. It's been exactly 4 months. I have an excuse. I was being lazy. That's pretty much it. I get easily distracted. I'm like a little autistic kid when they see a butterfly. I just have to go chase it down. But instead of butterflies, it's just fucking Fortnite released a new season. For this video, I want to do a couple of movies I wanted to review. I was gonna make a review video for them, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna wait until I finish this video. Clearly, I'll finish this video in a week. It's fucking January 12th. Just a quick snap about all these movies that I have an opinion on. Some of them are going to be positive, some of them are going to be negative. There are some movies that were infamous in 2023 that I didn't watch or don't plan on reviewing because no reason. I just think there are some movies that I'm like, alright, I want to talk about that. Mostly like superhero blockbusters. So without going further, let's get started. The Flash is one of those movies that I didn't really want to watch at first. It's relying on old nostalgia. The actor is being a domestic terrorist towards everyone. The producer's saying that everyone's gonna forget about Ezra Miller's fucking crimes as soon as the movie comes out. And then the leaks came out and it looked so fucking stupid. And I watched it and it was not great. It wasn't good, but the more times I rethink about this movie, the more I hate it and despise it for what it stands for. I think it really irks me because it's just a movie that seems like such a corporate idea rather than like someone who wants to tell like a story or something. It just wanted to end the DC universe so badly. It resulted in just a shit show, just for the sake of a shit show. I can see why a lot of people thought it was good because there are some things that I'm like, okay, I can see myself enjoying that, and yeah, that was pretty emotional, but I just didn't like the end. The entire third act was fucking disrespectful. It was stupid. I don't want to be one of those pretentious film bros on Twitter who are like, this is killing cinema. Cinema is dead. But if more scenes are like that in the future, it is really going to be downhill from here. God forbid they actually spend a nearly $300 million budget on fucking actually fixing up the CGI. Where the fuck is the money going to? My God, I am starting to believe in those money laundering theories. Did you know Indiana Jones was also $300 million? Where the fuck are they going with this money? Like, I think the director even himself said that the CGI is supposed to look bad, but when it's in the Speed Force, that's when it looks bad. But you can't really defend it when it looks bad outside of it, when Barry is not in the Speed Force. I think the whole bring back Michael Keaton was interesting. I should have known it wasn't gonna be the Michael Keaton Batman from like Batman Returns, Batman 89, but it is strange to see him come back because I'm like, okay, he looks cool. The way they make him act and the way he looks and like most of the movie looks fucking dumb. I don't know. That costume works when there's a good lighting towards it. Once it's in bad lighting, it just looks really dumb. I mean, he did have some cool action scenes, but I wouldn't put past it. Oh my God. Alright, I'm just gonna go back to it. As you can clearly tell, I don't have a script for this shit. I'm just going off memory. That fucking third act, that Minecraft flat world terrain looking third act. My God, that was embarrassing. But the whole third act, it's Flash, the other Barry. My God, he is so fucking annoying. I fucking despised him. I went with a family member to watch this movie and she loved him. I don't know where I find him fucking annoying, and I guess that's the point of it because it's like Barry before he got powers and responsibility, but my God, he was obnoxious. So it's two Barrys. It's Supergirl, who I thought was decent in this movie. I can see the actress playing her again, but I highly doubt it because they're already recasting her. Tough luck. Make sure to lock the door when you head out. The whole third act was so fucking bad. It was just boring. It was just basic. It looked ugly. At least with Man of Steel, it had an interesting background. And at least Batman v Superman tried something to make sure it doesn't head towards the city. But my God, this was just like, oh, we need to render something. Let's just get rid of the surroundings so it's just a flat surface. Batman dies 3 times and he died in the plane crash, which was fucking stupid. I saw it on Twitter beforehand. And I was like, there's no fucking way that's how Batman dies. And then Ezra Miller's is fucking acting. We're like, no. And then we have him battling someone and then he just fucking falls, I guess. Falls with height damage or some shit. Didn't bring a water bucket. And he just dies and it just looks so fucking silly. It just felt bad. And the villain, not fucking General Zod, the actual villain was so predictable. And I cannot believe some people were like, I did not see that coming. Literally the instant that you see two Barrys in the trailer and you see the fucking evil Flash, you're like, okay, it's gonna be the other Barry. And then also, YMS also made a good point. How Barry just instantly gave up after trying 2 times to save the world. He was like, oh, we couldn't do it this time. We could do it again. Oh, you know what? Actually, the world is supposed to die. Mom is supposed to die. You're supposed to die. Look at me. I gave up after 2 times, so it's okay if we let the world die. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You only tried twice. And it's just meant to be for this world to die just because you didn't want to try again. It would have made sense if he did it multiple times and he's like just tired of trying to constantly save, but then Barry is just still going and going and going. But no, it's just, yeah, I gave up after 2 times. You could do it. I don't think you could do it anymore, man. I think you just give up, just hang it loose, just let the world die. It's like, okay. The fact that this movie got a lot of praise from like people who were like, oh yeah, this is the best superhero movie ever made. This is the top 10. This is better than The Dark Knight and Spider-Verse combined. It's like, alright, bro. It's like, who was it? Like Tom Cruise? Stephen Hawking? No, not Stephen Hawking. And then James Gunn saying that it was a masterpiece. I'm like, alright. He's not gonna shit talk a movie that he has to promote. Even though I highly doubt they promoted it. Dude, I'm gonna say this a lot with a lot of movies. The only movie that I've seen that get a lot of commercials was Barbie this year. And even now, Barbie gets a lot of advertisements for being on HBO. There are movies that are coming out like in a week or came out now, and there has never been a trailer for them ever. And The Flash is one of them. The Flash had no ads, no McDonald's toy collab, no fucking toys. I didn't see anything to promote this movie. And that really shows the state of it. I think it was just a movie that was just a mistake. And the fact that they took down Batgirl but kept this shit up, I think there's nothing more I can say about it. I think the movie is just pretty bad. No, not pretty bad. I would just say it's bad. There's some light enjoyment I had out of it, but not enough to want to rewatch it again. It didn't make its money. It appeared. It went away. New DC universe on its way. I forgot Aquaman came out. That's gonna be for later. Originally, I gave this movie a 5 out of 10, but I think I'm just gonna lower it down to a 4. So 4 out of 10. Another movie I watched was Five Nights at Freddy's, and I don't think it's a popular opinion or unpopular opinion, but I'm not a big fan of this movie because I was never a big fan of the games in general. My first video though on this channel was me, my friend Miguel, and my friend Carmelo playing FNAF. I would show it on screen. Here it is. It's poorly done. You can barely see anyone. I'm not gonna unlist those videos. I'm gonna like delete them and like bury them in like Sacramento or something. But this movie was interesting because it had a weird delay because it was in production hell for a while. Basically, the script was being worked on back and forth, back and forth. It was like, oh, I don't want to do this. Let's write a new one. I don't want to do this. I want to write a new one. And the final script, I wouldn't say this is a terrible movie. I just wouldn't say it's a fun, bad movie. I think it was just an interesting middle of the road movie. I do like how a lot of it was like practical. I do like the animatronics were actually there, and they actually look pretty good for like the set design. I think the only problem I had with the set design was the sign outside, because if you ever been to like a Chuck E. Cheese type sort, there's no way a mascot would look like that. It wouldn't look like based on the animatronic. It would look like a cartoon of the animatronic. But I do think this movie is a bit interesting with fans because all the fans like it. Well, some of the fans like it. Some of them are just saying, man, this shit was a waste of time. I could have been Goonie. But I do see what the appeal of it is. It is like sort of a faithful to the source material. I think Josh Hutcherson was pretty good. I thought he was enjoyable in this movie. I did like his relationship with his little sister Abby. I really thought that was like an enjoyable part of the movie, just seeing how he cares for his little sister. So he just works this terrible job at a fucking animatronics store working 5 nights. Also, by the way, I have to bring this up. Do you think people are confused why it's called Five Nights at Freddy's? They don't really specify like, oh, you only had to work here 5 nights, or hear, oh, I worked here 5 nights, they're just like, why the fuck is it called Five Nights at Freddy's? Like, people who haven't heard of the game are gonna be fucking confused, which I highly doubt, because it's probably like old people who probably bought their grandson or granddaughter a fucking Bonnie plushie or something. I do think Matthew Lillard played Steve or William Afton pretty good. He was the most enjoyable part of the movie, even though he was barely in it. And I guess Elizabeth Lail as Vanessa was pretty good. I don't know much about the games. I'm sorry. I think a lot of it is just too standard, and I don't think it was going to be appealing to me and my kind of people who are not fans of the game. But like, I guess it's enjoyable if you really just want to watch a standard horror movie. Horror in quotations. It wasn't much of a scare fest because, again, it's FNAF. It's not, most of their scares are just jump scares. So I wasn't expecting much out of this game. I wasn't expecting like, oh my god, it's gonna be like a thriller. There's gonna be blood and guts and everywhere, because I'm like, it's gonna appeal to little kids too. Because you gotta remember, FNAF is one of those games that have like the little kids audience, like Guardian of Banban and all that shit. I will never forgive FNAF for making Guardian of Banban popular. And Hello Neighbor, my god, I forgot about Hello Neighbor. If they introduce a Hello Neighbor movie, I'm gonna
Ooh, who's that nut?
What? Hello Neighbor!
Hey!
I think there isn't much I could say about this movie. The only thing I'll say, set design was cool. The actors were clearly giving their best for what they were working with. I know this movie's gonna have a sequel, but I mean, for God's sake, this movie made a lot of money, and why wouldn't it? FNAF fans would buy anything. They would even buy Liberty Chica, and also Tie-Dye Freddy, and also, look at this Funko Pop. It's up there with Venomized Marvel characters. I'll say this, it wasn't a bore fest, I'll give it that, but I just never really planned on watching this movie. The more I'll say is, if you enjoy FNAF, you'll love it. If you like game theory, you're gonna like it. If Corey Kenshin fucking makes you come, you're gonna have a fun old time. The outro was pretty cool, I'll give it that. It's cool to hear the living tombstones out loud. I think I'll rank it a bit higher than Flash, so I'm just gonna do a ranking of all these movies that I'm reviewing. It's gonna be fucking unfair because I think 2 of the movies I'm actually reviewing are actually good. So, I'll leave it at that. 4 out of 10. Finally, we get some representation. You know, us Mexicans, you know, we always lack some representation. So we finally get Blue Beetle. We finally get a Mexican-based DC superhero in the DCEU, and it's the lowest performing DC movie ever, which kind of sucks. Like, because I think the movie was actually kind of good, or like it's not like excellent, like good, but I find it fun, and a lot of people have the agreement that it was a fun movie. But man, I can't blame anyone for not wanting to watch it. The trailers made it look so generic, and to an extent it kind of was, but I really enjoyed it. Like, a lot of the movie had a good chemistry with the actors, a lot of good inside jokes with, well, my culture, and there was some fun creative scenes. Blue Beetle in general is like a fun superhero to explore because he basically has something that could grant him anything. I do say this is quite enjoyable, perfectly paced. I don't think it didn't drag. I didn't feel like it lingered on for way too long. I think Jamie was really good and his family was very enjoyable. I really enjoyed George Lopez in this movie. It reminded me of an uncle I know because, you know, representation, fool. And I do like the love interest, even though it felt one-sided at one point because I was like, oh, I like her because she's attractive. I do like the relationship between Jamie and Jenny, so I give it props for that. But man, this is another movie that felt like it had no marketing whatsoever. A lot of movies have that problem now. I feel like there's no advertisement for anything. Not even like on Instagram, YouTube, fucking Facebook, Twitter, anything. There's barely any ads for movies. And the only time you see them is at the movie theaters. I'm like, dude, I don't want to see the same trailers over and over again. I want to do a video about that. I want to do a video about movie trailers and like movie theaters because they all feel the same to me. They all have the same format. They all have the same music. They all have the same ideas. And I want to do a video on that. So if this video gets 10 likes, I'll do a video on that. There'll probably be another 30-minute rant with like a character post.
For those of you who don't get the joke, the joystick is a metaphor for penis.
I did cry in this movie. It was only once. I only cried. I'm a big boy. I didn't need to hold hands with my mom or something, but I did cry when something emotional happened. I did not care for the villain. I did not like her. I found her to be boring and repetitive, and I don't know, she was just generic. She was just a typical I hate immigrants, so I'm gonna be racist sort of villain. I did like the side villain who was manipulated to work for her, and he had a cool idea, like a cool concept of like why he's there, and I salute him for what he did at the end. So yeah, I'll give him the props for that. Yeah, this is another movie I feel like they didn't know they were going to be the last part of the DCEU. So it felt like, oh yeah, they're going to introduce him and such. There's going to be cool characters later on. They introduced the original Blue Beetle, but then like, no, that's it. It's over. I think I do like the culture that it spoke to me because I'm like, oh, I recognize that. Hey, Chamberlain Coronado, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't think a lot of people are going to get much out of it. I can see why this movie didn't do well. I'm sad it didn't do well, even though it's kind of a basic superhero movie, but yeah, it's better than whatever these are. So, yeah, all I'm gonna say is, if you're like me, a Taco Bell menu item, then you should watch it. All I'm gonna say is, I had fun with it, so I'm gonna give this movie a 7 out of 10. I really haven't been much of a Godzilla fan. I've seen some movies like the 2000s ones and like the early ones, and like I watched Godzilla vs. Kong a while back with my friends, but I wasn't much of like a Godzilla enthusiast. I never really was a big fan or anything. But watching this movie, man, this shit made me fucking cry. I didn't expect much out of this movie, but I heard a lot of praise for it. A lot of people were like, I want to rewatch it. Please, people begging for people to watch it. And I watched it because of my friend Make, or my friend Donovan. Shout out to him. He and I are co-owners of Boy Stockpile, so. But man, this movie was fucking emotional. I wasn't expecting it, because you don't expect much out of these monster movies. Like, you expect like the cool monster big scenes where like they're destroying the city and all that, and then you like expect like the main plot to be like some boring basic human shit, and you're like, ah, fuck me, dude. But no, with this fucking movie, for me, I cared more about the human stuff than I did for like Godzilla attacking the city, and it made it fucking emotional for me. Basically, the main plot, I don't speak Japanese, so I'm just gonna name them by their initial. K was basically a kamikaze pilot who fled away like pussy style, like he didn't want to go fight in the war. He said that his planes were not working, and then he backed out. He landed on an island, and he saw Godzilla kill a bunch of mechanics, and he pussied out of killing Godzilla. He got scared, and he ran away and hid, and because of them, a bunch of mechanics died because of what he didn't do, and also a lot of people died because he didn't show up for war, so he pussied out on 2 different things. He comes back, Japan, of course, was destroyed. There's just scraps and scraps and scraps everywhere. And then he meets a woman who's carrying a kid. It's not her kid, but she promises the mother who died that she would take care of the kid. And he, of course, takes her in for the night, but she stays there. And basically, over a couple years, they basically get their life together. But that pesky little Godzilla decides to fuck everything up. Godzilla is heading towards the city. They're being scared. They're being like, oh, we should probably evacuate the city. But knowing Japan's government, they're like, nah, let's not inform them. Let them fuckers die. Spoiler alert, you think one of the main characters dies because of the fucking attack by Godzilla. Like, it's the first time you actually think, what the fuck, Godzilla is scary. Because most of the time you think, it's whatever. Bunch of nameless people. Who the fuck cares? It's Japan and New York City sometimes. Basically, near the third act is just planning on like attacking Godzilla, and it is so emotionally staked and so fucking amazingly written and so well directed, because I really cared about them setting up the plan, them fucking attacking Godzilla, because you're like, you son of a bitch, you killed her. Oh, whoops, spoiler. Oh, well, the fucking movie came out like a month ago. If you didn't watch it, come on, man, just watch it. I'm gonna be like everyone on Twitter, come on, watch it. Man, that movie, fucking hell. There is a lot of this movie that's like very, very emotional, and you really care about the humans, and you're like, oh man, we have to look at Godzilla attacking something. Like, it looks cool, yeah, but come on, I actually care about them. What happened to the kid? Like, the kid is calling the guy a dad, but he doesn't really want to be his dad. He doesn't consider her his daughter. Like, what the fuck, dude? I know a lot of people are gonna have trouble reading subtitles because God forbid they actually read past the 4th grade, but man, it's really good. I really recommend it. We're already talking spoilers. Basically, the girl, you think she dies because the way that she fucking dies, should have fucking killed her. She got hit by Godzilla's rays going like 80 miles per second and like it would have crushed her bones, all of it, just impale her. But then it turns out at the end that she's actually alive. She was in the hospital the entire time waiting. And like, yeah, it's satisfactory and it gives a emotional ending for our main character, but there's no fucking way she survived that. If she did, she would just look like dust. Her bones would just... That's my only con with this movie. It is really good. I highly recommend it. No matter where you find it, HBO, fucking Amazon, fucking one of those shitty streaming services like Tubi and all that shit. If you find it, get a free trial, watch it. It is worth it. And I have nothing else to say. It's just very good. Watch it. I cried at a Godzilla movie. It is really good. So I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10. Alright, I don't have much to say about this movie. All I'll say is it's more enjoyable than Aquaman and the Flash. But, yeah, it's not that good. Yeah, it's pretty basic, generic Marvel movie that relies on way too much cringy humor. I wasn't a big fan of the first Miss Marvel, so I wasn't surprised. And Monica's still not a character I'm interested in. That's pretty much it. I think a lot of people overhated it, saying that it's the worst, because I still think there's like other worse Marvel movies than this. But yeah, I can see why this is not enjoyed. Did not perform well. It had a lot of weird scenes that you're like, oh, why introduce this at all? That Singing Planet part was too hated, but at the same time, I'm like, why introduce this at all? I feel like Nick Fury has gone downhill, and that's saddening because I really like Samuel L. Jackson. But I feel like the only part I really loved was Miss Marvel. Her actress is amazing, and I really hope the best for her. She really has a lot of charisma outside of the movies. She knows what she's talking about. She actually like feels like someone who cares about like putting work into like reading the source material and all that. Yeah, it's saddening because she's the only one I haven't seen her show fully because I really never cared to finish it. The villain was pretty bad, of course. It was a generic, no name remembering villain that's like, oh, Miss Marvel, you took away a lot of our resources, and we're gonna go to these planets and steal them, like the ocean and the sun and all that. Again, I feel like I enjoyed some things, but I just can't name them. But I just know I had more enjoyment watching this than I did for Aquaman, The Flash. All I'll say, Marvel really needs to work on itself. Maybe take a break or two. Do not force feed us shows. Maybe make shows optional. I think I'm looking forward to Daredevil and Deadpool, but I'm optimistic. Yeah, the power thing was interesting because I never really found anything compelling, and I found the concept of it kind of interesting but also confusing at some points, but that's all I had to say. I don't think it's a must-watch. Again, I feel like most of these movies I review is not a must-watch. The only one I could give benefit to is Blue Beetle and Godzilla. But this one, yeah, I think it's a skip. For me, it's like Black Widow. I never seen Black Widow, but I don't ever plan on watching it. For that, all I'm gonna say is The Marvels is getting a 5 out of 10. Aquaman was the final conclusion to this whole saga of the DCEU. We all started from Man of Steel in 2013 to, well, December of 2023. It was a good 10 years, and what a way to end it. It was not good. It was not good. It was a downgrade from the first one, which I find sad because I actually kind of like the first one. It was such a silly, stupid, it knows what it is, stupidly awesome fucking superhero movie. But then the second one is just, something about it just wasn't hitting right. Like all the good stuff from the first one just doesn't show up, and there's only like some scenes that I'm like, damn, that's actually pretty cool. Like the rest, I feel like what the fuck happened? Like I wanted to give this movie an attempt because I saw like all the test audience were scared of it. They walked out, and I was like, oh, come on, it can't be that bad. Fucking Suicide Squad got good audience scores. I highly doubt this is gonna be as bad. And it's not as bad as Suicide Squad, don't get me wrong, but I can see why people walked out on it. It's just kind of boring. I don't know what else to say about it because I do like some scenes, but not a lot of it because a lot of it just seems like oh, here's some fun we had in the beginning, but less developed. Looks worse somehow. Like there are scenes in here I'm like, there's no fucking way they accepted this as like the final product. And also half of the movie, I'm so confused by it. The Lost Kingdom, and it's only there for like 10 seconds, and the big bad is just like, okay, he dies in one hit. And Black Manta, I was like, okay, I could see why they introduced him in the first one. He didn't do much. He still got his ass kicked. Like, he did cool things in this movie, but nothing that extreme. I thought Black Manta was gonna be like this all-powerful, gonna kill Arthur and his family villain. Like, he's gonna destroy Atlantis. That's why he needs to work with his brother so he could help prevent Black Manta from going over and over. But no, it's just he gets his ass kicked most of the time, and the only way he gets away is because the ship just has a horn that scares Arthur away. And because of the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp case, Mira, or I like to call her Mierda, is always stepped out of battle, so she's barely in this movie for 10 minutes, which I could understand why. Like, a bunch of this movie feels like a bunch of filler. Like, it feels like they didn't expect the universe to end and this was gonna be the final movie. It's like ending the MCU on Ant-Man and the Wasp. It feels like that. The reason I love the first one is because it has James Wan's weird fucking style of 360s, and the action looks goofy, but it's fun goofy. But this one, it felt nothing until the last act where Aquaman is fighting Black Manta, and there's like one cool action scene because of it. But after that, nope. I feel like the actors were at least having some fun. I did not expect Randall Park to be in this movie and for him to have so many scenes, but I did like him. I don't know, I'm a big Office fan, so I'm like, oh look, it's Jim. Jason Momoa was fine. Patrick Wilson was Patrick Wilson. I feel like he's at first, alright, I'll say this. At first I did not like him in Aquaman, but the more I think about it and like the rewatch I had, I really do appreciate him because he knows when to play this fucking part, and it's so comical and silly. But this one, he just plays it kind of straight, and it works for him, I guess. But I didn't like him that much in this movie. The pacing was all over the place. The middle was a drag. It's weird because I know this movie had a lot of issues with production because of the DC universe ending, it being the final movie for a lot of these actors. Cut cameos of both Batman were supposed to be in it, but nothing happened. And then out of nowhere being like, all right, wrap it up. Test audience didn't like it. And this was a movie that Warner Brothers kind of needed to be a success. And so far it's mildly successful. It's still not breaking the budget, but this movie really needed to be successful for the Warner Brothers to actually have something on the map to look forward to, because oh boy, Warner Brothers is fucking dumb at making money. Yeah, I'm really disappointed by this movie. I really liked the first one, and I think it was a waste of time. I'll give it more positive than Flash because I don't want to rethink about Flash, but I'll never rewatch this movie. So I'm giving this movie a 4 out of 10. So those are the movies I was going to make reviews on, but I didn't really have a script for them, so I just decided to go ahead and do it nonsense. Maybe I'll do more of these. If you enjoy these type of like raw audio sorta reviews, I'll do more of them. I had an idea of a video to do like a ranking of all the 2023 films, but I haven't seen many, and I don't want to give like a raw ranking of like, oh, this and this, when there's clearly movies I haven't seen that would be on the list. I'll leave it at this. The worst movie I've seen this year was The Nun 2. The best movie I've seen this year was Across the Spider-Verse, so make it that as you will. Follow me on Letterboxd if you want to see more reviews sort of like this. I post nonsense, and I'm planning on bringing back my series of what I watched in blank because I really just want an excuse to come back. The Idol video really made me feel like I want to do more, but at the same time, boy oh boy, capturing footage for a show is terrible when I don't want to watch the show over and over again. Copyright is a tricky part with an HBO show. That video is gonna come out whenever I plan on finishing. I always set myself a deadline, but I feel like now with deadlines they're just making me just not want to do something. I feel like 2024 is gonna be a light year. Not a lot of movies coming out, but I hope I get to make more content for you guys. I hope to make more script-based videos. I hope I can make something with my camera and with friends, and maybe music, maybe art. That's all I gotta say. Thank you for watching, and I'll leave it at this. She asked what my favorite position was. I told her Tilted Towers. Abraham Lincoln.
The working ways.